Welcome to the Insum Insider.
Welcome to the Inside. This is the Insum Insider, your source for Oracle Apex tips, techniques, methodologies, and really wherever that discussion takes us. I'm your host, the recently vaccinated Monty, coming to you from soon-to-be COVID-free Houston, Texas. With me today is my good friend and member of the Insum family, Michelle Scamini. Hello, Michelle.
Hey, Monty, and I have to say that makes me very jealous, what you just said.
Well, we're going to talk about that today. Let's continue here. At the helm, keeping us on time and task, is our producer, French-Canadian Mark Rule. Mark, we appreciate everything you do for us. It's Thursday, March 25th, Season 2, Episode 6. And thank you for spending a piece of your afternoon with us. We're worldwide, coming to you live today on YouTube and Facebook. The Insum Insider is, of course, sponsored by Insum, and thus the name. If you're doing anything with Apex and you need a lifeline, reach out to us. We offer everything from coaching and mentoring all the way through turnkey project management and development. We're laser focused on Apex, and we have been since 2004. Michelle, you mentioned it's kind of a big day today for a couple of reasons. I know close to home you've got a driving test.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. So my Jonathan actually has scheduled his driving test, so I'm going to have to run out a little bit early today, but I will leave the show in good hands. So you'll see me disappear probably around half past the hour. But about the vaccine, Monty, very, very jealous. Congratulations, yay you.
Yeah, I actually had to drive outside of, I had to kind of, there's not really any appointments available where I'm at, so I had to kind of cast a wider net. And so I was able to drive outside of Houston and secure one. I got the Pfizer, so I've got to go back in 4 weeks.
Yep.
And
So I have to say Canada isn't exactly winning in the vaccine department. Things are improving, but we've gone sort of by order of priority. So started with healthcare workers and essential workers, and then sort of in descending order of age. They're doing, I believe, the 60 plus age group now. So not quite there yet, but I'm getting closer. So look forward to that. But it'll be great when the most of the people are vaccinated. We can hopefully get back to life as we once knew it.
Yeah. It's definitely something that's a kind of a personal choice. I've got some friends of mine that can't wait to get the vaccine. I've got other friends that say they're probably not going to get the vaccine. It's personal choice. I can't make that choice for them or anything like that. I just know I feel a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more protected around my elderly family members.
Mm-hmm. I would hope kind of so.
Yeah, because it's not about you; it's about us, and they say we're all in this together, and I think that thing's so overused and overhyped, but we kind of are in this together.
Absolutely.
Some of us have been much more impacted than others. But we are kind of cracking this thing together. I'm really looking forward to today's show. On deck, we have a member of Apex Royalty, Oracle's own Scott Spendolini. And I'll go as far as to say that there's no one working with Apex that doesn't know Scott. I mean, he's been there since the beginning and continues to be responsible for some very innovative Apex solutions. Today, he's doing his part to save the world. So what do you say we bring him on?
I have brought him on.
Hey, who needs a vaccine? I know a guy who could hook you up. Just send me a tweet.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, Scott. Welcome to the Insider. We were looking to fill this slot with a Spendolini, and Brian turned us down. So welcome aboard.
The best part of this job is getting confused with my brother, because it only ends up well. Because when someone thinks that somebody did something good and they confuse me, he gets mad. And then when somebody references me over him, he gets madder. So it really worked out well. Because I still get called Brian by a lot of people. But hey, I've been called.
Well, you're hella busy these days. We've had a few conversations, in preparation for the call. You're hella busy. And before we even get started, I understand there's things you can freely talk about. There's some things that you're not at liberty to go into great detail with, and I get that. So don't feel like it's okay to have some walls up here. Now, before we get started, one of the things that we've had a lot of fun with over the last few months is 2 Truths and a Lie. We're going to give you 2 Truths and a Lie now, the Spendolini edition. So if we could throw that up on the screen.
Yep.
All right, there you are. 2 Truths and a Lie. 2 of these are true. 1 of these is a lie. So Scott has been invited to Larry Ellison's house for dinner. Man, small world, Scott. Scott joined Oracle out of college and rose to the position of HTMLdb Product Manager. And Scott has spent time developing code on Tadpoles. Not sure what that is, but yeah. So anyway, we'll come back and visit that at the end of the call. And
but in the meantime, guys, people watching, if you have any thoughts about which one is the lie, dump it in the comments, and we'll take a look at that later on.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying anything.
All right. Well, we're here to talk about your current role. We could spend all day talking to you, Scott. Seriously, and that's not an exaggeration. You were there at the very beginning with Apex, and you continue to be there now with a very active role at Oracle. Can you talk about what your current role is? You're a senior. You have a senior role now with Oracle. Can you go ahead and discuss that?
Yeah. So I've transitioned out of the COVID team recently, but obviously it seems like 2-3 years. I guess it's barely a year. I worked with what we call the Pandemic Response Systems team, or PRS, recently. And I think it's a good sign because, the pandemic, it's not behind us yet. Trust me, we got a ways to go, but a lot of the systems that needed to be built are built. They're up and running and all that. But what I'm doing next, I think, is exciting. I'm leading a new team at Oracle whose mission is to promote Apex. And it sounds kind of weird, but Oracle's a big company, and you've got lots of different business groups doing all kinds of things. The team that I'm going to be focusing on is one called our Global Business Units, or our GBUs. GBUs at Oracle are typically acquisitions, right? So think Micros, think NetSuite, right? Companies like that. So they weren't built on the Oracle tech stack. We've inherited 12 different tech stacks, right? With 12 different, pipelines, for DevOps, and 12 different technology. So it's just, I don't want to say it's a mess, but it's hard to get a single technology across all these different global business units. So what our mission is to basically take Apex and package it up and show them, hey, you guys needed a system to do A, B, and C. You've been struggling for 10 years to even figure out how to get that started. What if we built it for you in a month? And we built it in a SaaS way, and we put it on the Oracle Cloud, and we built the integration to your MySQL database. Is that cool?
And they're like, that's never going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
That's possible.
They're a little skeptical, but we just started doing meetings this week, and next week we'll have a few more where we've got an awesome team assembled to basically say, give us a day or two to kind of work up the whole thing, and then we can show you just how easy this tool is and what you're all missing out on. So really exciting. I mean, it wouldn't be where we are with Apex if it wasn't for the last 9 months or even 12 months. When you look at when Oracle started doing the pandemic response. So rewind back to March. I'm not going to go over, what Shakib and company have already talked about, the first efforts where, they stayed up all night and in 3 days had a full blown working system, which is still working today, by the way. But when I came on board, it was roughly June 10th, I think, is my start date, or June 8th. I was given a good 2 days to kind of, get acclimated and like, hey, we need you to build a system for the COVID vaccine trials. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, how many people, how big is this thing going to be? Like, oh, we're expecting easily 1 million people sign up for this thing. Like, oh, well, sure. Like we could do a data model. We can do they're like, no. It needs to go live like in 3 weeks. Great. So luckily I was able to draft a Mr. Dan McGann, which many of you, he is. And we brought on board another guy who's just a rock star, Senthil Maramuthu. And he just, 3 of us sat down, and 3 weeks later, July 7th, we go live with the survey for the CoVPN, the vaccination trials, which was part of, the United States Project Warp Speed, in conjunction with NIH, CDC, Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center, which took the lead on the research side, University of Washington, which lent us a couple statisticians who could take all the data and munge it and change it and give us the Oracle R queries that we had to write to figure out the risk. Who else was involved? NIAID, right? So the national, I'm going to botch this up, the infectious disease group of part of NIH, which you may have heard of this guy, Dr. Fauci is in charge of. So it was wild. I mean, it was just unbelievable to see 5 or 6 different entities every day on calls, just working, sun up to sun up, essentially, just banging this thing out. We didn't know the questions for the first 2 weeks of the project, right? That was the hard part, is we kind of we knew the categories, so we can build roughly the pages we were going to flow through, but they kept changing the questions on us because as they went out, simple things like gender, right? Well, what is gender? Well, there's biological sex and then there's gender. Biological sex has a physiological difference. Like we want to know if you were born a man or a woman. If you're transgender, we want to also capture that, but we need to really reduce the number of values from the scientific point of view. So tons of discussion as to what we should put in the survey, and that changed 100 times.
So that never happens in real life, right, Scott?
Oh no, never. Everybody always has requirements well defined, and specs are completely perfect, and no one ever changes their mind or anything like that. Yeah.
So Scott, the first system that we all knew about was this therapeutic learning system, right? And that's the one you referred to that Shakib was so instrumental in. Was the success of that application what then drove, the future ones? So you came on board, and all of a sudden people knew that they wanted this built with Apex. They needed it done in 3 weeks. Is that how that happened, or?
Yeah, so therapeutic learning system, or TLS, was definitely the first. I think it honestly was the first time a lot of the Oracle execs were directly exposed to Apex, right? They all knew what it was. They've all heard about it. Many of them have seen it. But to see the true power of Shakib and Mike and Joel and that whole team and Sharon building the demo in front of 3 doctors and 2 people from NIH, live, just kind of put them away. And that enabled us to go and say to the CDC and to NIH, hey, we could do more of this stuff. Just let us know, right? What else do you guys need? The next one that came out is something called the patient monitoring system, which is still being used very widely today. That also was built quickly. I don't think it was a 3-day jobber. It was probably 2-3 weeks. But that one was built and deployed through a number of different healthcare systems to do patient surveillance. So as these healthcare systems came on board, their patients or their customers essentially would opt in to get daily text messages, basically saying how do you feel today? I feel fine. Great. Thank you. Or I feel a little feverish, right? So they're using that data and Oracle Analytics Cloud to kind of predict and understand, is there an outbreak happening? And this has use far past the pandemic, right? We're starting to see all these use cases for healthcare in general, that's really not a bad idea. It's not really intrusive. You get a text message, you tap a link, you go to a website, and you basically just tap the smiley face or the frown face. It's 2 seconds of your day, but the data that's being fed in is giving the public health officials just a way better look as to what's really happening in the communities, right? So they can plan and react to that.
And are you finding that people are quite happy to do that? They're responding and using,
Yep. Yeah, people are more than happy to provide that information. I mean, it's opt-in, right? So there's plenty of people who've decided not to, but there's a good number of emails and text messages we send out still every single day.
Now, what you're describing, that's the vSafe, right?
No, this is different. This is like a precursor to vSafe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so vSafe comes later in the story. So TLS, PMS, and then CoVPN was the one that I was charged with that we built. That one was wild because, not only was it crazy, but just the level of like the calls that we were in and the people that were involved, whether it was like for an instant or for the duration of the project. Everyone you've seen on TV, on CNN and Fox News and MSNBC or whatever, like talking about the pandemic from the government official, I've probably been on a Zoom with them. At one point or another. Like, it's just crazy. With the exception of Dr. Fauci, which I do have this, which is the closest I'm going to get to him, which is my little napkin. I showed the team and they were just super jealous because they're all based out of DC. They only made like 200 of these or something. Could easily have been the most horrible pitch in the world that he threw out that first day for the Nationals. But hey, whatever. It's not his job. But just like the people involved, like we're building the project, and one of the things we want to do is obviously promote it. So, we get a couple Hollywood producers involved, and now I'm getting emails from, not going to say their names, but like people that you would easily recognize, A-list celebrities.
I want to know their names. All right.
I don't want to out anybody or embarrass anybody.
All right. No, that's fine.
Put it this way. There were a couple actors. I'm like, oh, you're involved. Fair enough. I will add you to our system to capture the video testimonials that we have.
So who would you have wanted to play you in the movie?
In the movie, no one should play me. There's no reason I should be in any movie whatsoever.
But that is wild, Scott.
You guys might have seen this, but we did a couple PSAs, and the first one was actually Chris Rock narrating it. And like, they didn't tell us, but it's like he has such a recognizable voice. It was like,
totally.
That one didn't make the cut for whatever reason, so they went with. I mean, they had to settle for Harrison Ford, I guess. Which that was just cool, right? I'm sitting there thinking, like, this is really neat. Like, the project I just worked on has freaking Han Solo talking about it. Right? How often does that happen in your career? Never, ever.
So I guess you wouldn't have imagined, right, when you took your position at Oracle, that it was going to look like anything like this. You probably knew you were going to be building some cool apps, but maybe not quite realize the scope of it all. And
it's still dizzying.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of little like Zoom screenshots cached away with like some of these people. It's just unbelievable. But really, I think the coolest part, even cooler than Han Solo, I hate to say, when we went live, we had gotten ready, and we have every DBA on standby, and all the Apex team is like, what do you need? What do you need? We flipped the switch, and I think we got, I want to say 25,000 people signed up for the vaccine trials day one. And it was just nuts watching the stats come in. I'll never forget it. It was Senthil, Dan, and myself, and I think Shakib was on the call, and a couple other people. We stayed up to like 1 a.m. my time, so 2 a.m. East Coast time, drinking beers and just reloading the page. 11,000, 11,300, 11,500, right? And just watching the volunteers roll in. Because you think about it, like, these are people who are willing to say, yeah, screw it, I want to be the first one to take the vaccine. And literally putting technically their lives on the line to help us get through this. Those are the ones that like don't get any recognition, that deserve it all. And we ended up getting over 500,000 over the duration of CoVPN, which is still being used today. There are more vaccines coming, right? We've got the Janssen J&J one. We've got obviously Pfizer and Moderna. AstraZeneca is on the way, and there's other smaller ones that are also being tested. Plus, now they're looking at the adolescents and the children, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to get them vaccinated. So it's a whole different trial, a whole different set of criteria. But that was cool, right? And then once we're live now, this is where I think the fun part starts. Like, okay, here's all the problems nobody could think about. Like, we need to deliver the volunteers to like 300 testing sites across the US. So obviously these people are getting paid to do a screening. So you would have some sites say like, I'll take all people in my zip code, right? So give me 700 people. And then there'd be cities with multiple sites. And the next site would log in and say, hey, I have no volunteers. Oh, site one took all of them. Like, site one's really small. They only have 2 doctors. How could they take all of them? So we had to build rules engines, right? So you could only take so many volunteers. And once you check them in, it counts against your quota. Then we had sites saying like, hey, we're giving our participants, like they would hire people and give them a business card and say, go to covpn.org. And at the end of the survey, plug in ABC123. That's my patient. You deliver them to my site. I don't want them going to another site. Okay, let's build another rule that says if site code is there and it's valid, we automatically route them to the corresponding site, regardless of who thinks that they have claim on that person.
And so Scott, this is happening so fast. This is real-time data, real-time. Nobody could predict anything, and it's still you and your small team kind of adjusting. And do you even have time to test what you're doing? I mean, obviously you were testing, but
some testing. I mean, we did as much as we could, given that some of this stuff would pop up at 11 o'clock at night, and you get an email, so you kind of start working on it, and then by the next day, on our noon stand-up call, we would typically have at least a designed workaround or a design solution. Oftentimes we have the whole thing, and then we just push it out and away we go. But that's where Apex really excelled, right? Is whatever you have, just throw it at us. And for the most part, none of the stuff is undoable. It's just we need people to guide us and tell us what to do and the rules of this big thing that none of us have ever really done before. And we'd implement it, get it out the door, and away we'd go.
So where are you at in the timeline at this point? Are we talking early fall?
Yeah, this is still, CoVPN went live July 7th. So this is still like, it took a while to get the people, right? I mean, well, we got 20,000, 25,000 day one, but it took a while to then push these people out. And then there was obviously a lag to get the vaccines in hand to these clinics. So this is probably, late summer, early fall. Now the sites, right, and here's where the fun starts. They want the right people, right? And the right people in many, many cases across the US were minorities who work jobs that expose them to COVID, potentially, right? So think people who are service workers on the front line, bus drivers, police officers, obviously healthcare professionals, people who, clean houses, who are going from home to home to home to home and just cross-contaminating and exposing themselves, to multiple different environments all day long. You also want comorbidities, right? Like if you're healthy, as we've seen, like, not always, but a lot of times if you're healthy, you weather COVID better. But if you're not healthy, it exacerbates it greatly. So you ideally wanted, people who met 5 or 6 different criteria. So we built this little analytic dashboard in Apex that allowed you to basically just pick the criteria. I want people that are risky, that are between, 18 and 35 in these zip codes that are these ethnicities, right? And it would, narrow the pool down, and then you'd say, give me these people. And it would pull them all in, and then the sites would go and contact and screen, all those individuals. So that was probably the coolest dashboard that I've built in quite some time. It just did so much, and every day it was more and more and more. I looked at it the other day because I haven't really been involved in that project. I didn't even recognize it, right? They've added so much more stuff to it. Again, that's just Apex at work, as you know, right? Oh, you need another, factor in here? Sure. We'll just slap another facet on the faceted search. Now you can sort by zip code. Oh, you need to sort by priority code. Sure.
Sounds like your analytic views, like a good case for analytic views under the covers too.
We did look at that. We ended up not needing to use that because what they would actually do for the analytics side is the statistician from University of Washington basically wrote all these Oracle R routines. So it was funny. I had Brian create an Oracle R instance and securely link it to our Apex instance, and we just push the data over there. We run their routine, which I have no idea what it does. It does all these, there's cover F, cover H, I forget the other one. F is how likely you are to die. H is how likely you are to be hospitalized. And based on all the factors, we would give scores back, and we would tie the scores to all the people. So as these different, screening sites would look, they'd want risky people. They don't want someone like me who sits at home all day and doesn't leave the house. They want to see if the vaccine's actually really working.
Yeah. Do you do any? Okay, so we're as far as the timeline goes, we're into the fall now. At what point did you start to hear that rumblings about what would in time be vSafe?
Yeah, it started around early October. We were on all these different calls, and CoVPN was stable, and Dan and Senful had a really good handle on it. So the CDC came forward, and who knows how we got hooked up with them. But hey, we might need a system that would do something with the vaccine rollout, right? We had no idea what it would be, and it turned out it was actually 3 systems, right? So vSafe is the after vaccine monitoring system, right? Which is the Apex app that you use, once you get the vaccine.
Just this right here.
Yep. Yeah, I got my card too. Like, this is high.
Yeah.
Right. No one can fake that at all. But that's a whole nother story. There's another system that we weren't going to do, and this is probably one of the cooler stories. They needed a system to allow the pharmacies and the federal partners to order vaccine. So think CVS, Walgreens, but also think like State Department, Bureau of Prisons. We've got a lot of people in prisons, and they all need to be vaccinated too. And we've got to get the vaccine to them. We're not going to say, hey, promise you'll come back, but go out and get a vaccine and be back by 9:00. Oh, no, that's not how it's going. State Department has people all over the world. DOD has people in military bases in the US and all over the world. They all needed to facilitate the ordering. And then it made it even harder because you don't just pop this thing in a FedEx box and send it. You need to send the dry ice kits, specifically with Moderna and Pfizer. So you've got to pack this thing. I think they called it the Igloo. It was like this little box that was specifically designed to send these things out. Then it gets even harder because Moderna was nice. They do their orders in lots of 100. Pfizer does their orders in lots of 195. Like, you couldn't fit 5 more in there? Nope. So we built a system. David Peak was in charge of this one, but we built a system over a weekend to show them that we could do it, to facilitate all the ordering for all the pharmacies, because they were on the fence. Like, we're not sure. We've got another system that we're going to use internally. So we just took a weekend and did it and showed it to them Monday. And they were just like, can we use this? I'm like, yeah, this is real. This isn't a demo. We actually built the system for you guys. So all the pharmacies and all the federal partners are using a system that we named VPOP, the Vaccine Provider Ordering Portal. And it's super simple in design. The goal was to make it like an airport check-in kiosk. Like, who are you? Where are you flying to? Check in. So I log in, I'm CVS. I need Pfizer. How many boxes do you want? 10. Okay, ship them, right? And all that data would get transmitted up, and they would create the shipping labels. And, from wherever Pfizer and Moderna were shipping the vaccines to, they would divvy them up, and off they'd go all over the US.
Wow.
The cool part there, we did a trial where they actually shipped like empty boxes, right? So the way we tested the system was, okay, someone would write on a piece of paper like Pfizer, 200 doses, put it in a box and then just put it on a plane, and they would ship it, and then we would make sure that this location got the right dosage. And, it worked pretty well. So that obviously needed to also go live, on this rolling date where we think it's December 10th. No, actually, it might be December 5th. Well, we heard a couple things. It's December 12th now. Well, be ready as early as December 3rd. Is that okay?
Oh, so it wasn't like they were always kicking it out. They were bringing it back at points.
It would mostly go forward, but every once in a while it would get pulled back. So that was the hardest part, because now we're doing 3 systems. We're doing vSafe, we're doing vPop, and then we're doing the system that I led, DCH. It was probably the simplest and the most complex of the 3. The Apex side was pretty basic. You upload a file of people who've been vaccinated, and then you call a web service. The web service was built in Java because of something called HL7, which if you're in the healthcare industry, you know what an awful format that is. Think pipe delimited text files with anything you can abbreviated twice, right? Just really, really obtuse formats. But there's libraries in Java that take an HL7 file and decode it. So all the different jurisdictions are loading stuff into this clearinghouse, and then we're feeding CDC the results of that. So when you hear on the news, like this morning, they talk about, right now we're averaging 2.5 million vaccines a day. I'm just sitting there going, yep, you're right.
That is so cool. I mean, my mind is spinning with all of these apps. If there's ever been a better demonstration of the power of Apex, we've been saying for years, right? How you've got an urgent need. We can, Apex can get it done in, well, not Apex, but we can get it done with Apex in days, weeks, and look at what you guys have accomplished. And this is so high visible, high profile. It's what better demonstration than it's amazing what you've done, and what you've done for Apex itself. I think we've all felt this wave of renewed interest and sense of excitement around the tool, and I think that has a lot to do with what you guys have done around these COVID applications. Yeah,
you're absolutely right that if we could do what we did, and yeah, we had a really good team, but there's really good teams everywhere. We're not the only one.
Right.
If we could do what we did under the stresses and under the pressures that we did it, there ain't no reason why Apex can't solve lots of problems, right? And do it now with the Apex service and the Oracle Cloud, even less expensively, right? More affordably than ever before. It's just proof, right? Like we did it, and the volumes, which I can't get into the numbers. I don't really want to divulge how many people are using it, but it's just unreal. The uptake that we've had with vSafe, it is just blown away the CDC. They thought it would be a very low percentage of people who get the vaccine would use it, and it is just beyond their expectations. And it is enabling them now to see things in real time, right? Like every day they get a report as to what the side effects are, and they're able to react on that, right? So if people have really severe side effects, they can call them up and they can say, hey, we want to know more. We want you to go visit this doctor. We want you to go and, fill out this what's called a VAERS report, which is basically the true, older adverse effect reporting system.
Let's get into vSafe in a little bit, in as much detail as you can get into there, Scott. First of all, let's remind everybody about 2 truths and a lie. One of these is a lie. One of these, or two of the others are in fact true. So figure out which one's the lie. Put it in the comment, and then Scott will have the big reveal at the end of the call. All right, now,
guys, I wish I didn't have to go, but I'm going to go to that driving test. So, Scott, thank you so much. It's been fascinating, and I look forward to watching the replay. All right, catch you later.
My 14-year-old is taking her permit test. So
14? Yeah, no, I wouldn't have started at 14.
No, well, yeah, I didn't want her to, but someone,
gray hairs,
whatever she wants.
My son is taking his driving test here in another couple of months. So I'm staring at the future there, Michelle. Take lots of notes.
Yeah, she's like, so I think I'm going to get a Range Rover as my first.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you can think a lot of things. That's not going to happen, but
Yeah,
sure.
my son showed me a picture of a Lamborghini, and I just told him, aim high, son, aim high.
I mean, that's what I wanted when I was 15, 16 years old too.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk as much as you're able to divulge about VSafe, because I just got my vaccination yesterday, and I was handed what I was handed. I was handed this
Nice.
flyer here, that talks about what to do and all this stuff. Since it's totally voluntary, I think that's fantastic that you're getting those kind of numbers in, because usually you do a survey, you just it's a pittance what you get back. That's fantastic.
It's crazy. Every day we see the numbers come in, and it's just like, wow. And I think VSafe is working because it's just so simple, right? You get a text, and
can you show us, Scott, with a screen? Or I know at one point you said you may be able to show a dev screen.
Let me see, because I'm not on the VPN, and the demo is on our VPN. I can show you what it looks like real quick. Let's see.
Yeah, for those of you who are less than 55 years old, less than 50 years old, who haven't been vaccinated yet, you're going to see a sample here of what VSafe looks like, and it's very simple, very very easy. Go ahead, Scott.
Yep. So the actual production version right now is text message only, but obviously you can see we're looking at enabling email at some point in the future. But you put in your phone number here, right? And I want to go ahead and get my messaging rates. I'm going to do my famous January 1, 1980 is what I use. So this is the same thing when we talked about gender and biological sex. So male, female, other, prefer not to say is kind of what the VSafe team focused on. One of the big things with VSafe that, man, if the gender discussion was long, the pregnancy discussion with VSafe was just massive.
If you think for privacy concerns or what?
Pregnancy. If you're a woman, you could be pregnant when you get the vaccine, but not after, or the other way around, right? Or you might not know, and all of a sudden, so it was just this temporal problem of like, I think what we came up with is like every day we're going to ask a woman, are you pregnant today? If they say no, right? And even if they say no, we're going to continue to ask them, are you sure? Yeah, it was a lot of discussion to kind of hash through how we're going to do that. Again, things you just don't think of off the bat here, right? So
Indeed.
At this point, it's going to blow up if I click register, because this is an internal site. But it would just go through and it would prompt you for, what's the vaccine manufacturer? When did you get the vaccine? And then you get your first survey, right? So how are you feeling? Do you have any pain? Do you feel feverish? Did you miss work? How much work did you miss? And then there's a box you could provide, other comments for whatever symptom you have. And that's it. Every day you get a text, you tap the link. It takes you directly to the survey. And the survey gets simpler as time goes on, right? Especially if you don't have symptoms. And, you take 10 seconds a day, you fill it out, and you're another data point in this massive, collection of data points that we're keeping.
So it's daily for the first so many days, then it's weekly, then it's monthly. Now, is it a smart app to where if I'm saying that I am having ill effects, does it make me do daily for a longer period of time or anything?
It won't do anything like that. Yeah. If you put a certain combo of symptoms in there, it'll like turn the whole screen red and say, you probably really should be taking a survey. You probably should be calling 911, right?
Yeah.
But, it doesn't prolong it if you say certain things or not. It's just interval based.
So how you said there's a new version coming out?
We just pushed a release, I want to say it was last week, where we added 4 or 5 different languages. So Spanish, Korean, Chinese, French. I can't remember what the 5th one was, but anyway, that was a big deal is to get it. multilingual, so as many people, as possible can use it in their native language. And we've already seen uptake on that, right? So we run stats every day, of course, that show how many people took the survey. Now break it out by the language in which they took the survey.
Yeah, and I think you were smart to operate everything off of the phones, because I mean globally everybody's got a phone, and more than obviously have computers in that. So
the issue with the phone is not everybody has a smartphone. Like my dad doesn't have a smartphone, right? But vSafe is designed that I think we let you have 2 people per phone number. So I could do it on behalf of my dad if I wanted to. So I would use my phone number again. I would put in a different name, and then it would send me texts for each person. So if we both got the vaccine on the same day, I'd get 2 messages. If we got it on different days, I'd have a string for him, a string for me. So we tried to accommodate as many people as possible, because particularly the elderly may or may not have, smartphones. And if they do, like my dad's never answered a text, right? He has an iPad. I text him. He doesn't know what to do. He never, ever answers a text. So just because you have the device doesn't mean you're proficient with it.
And there's still clamshell. A lot of them have clamshells, and it's just it does what they need it to do. So they don't feel the need to upgrade to the big smart devices.
They're doing with it, right?
Yeah. So what are again? You may not be at liberty to talk about some of this stuff, but what are your future enhancements that you're looking at for vSafe?
I'm not. So vSafe itself, there's not a ton that I'm aware of, but I'm not in tune, day to day with that team. I know there's additional things that are on the hopper to build for that. Like the multilingual thing was big. I think email being added, and don't quote me on this, but that's another thing they want to do is that would expand the reach to someone with access to a computer, right? Yeah. So not only would it be good for mobile phones or smartphones, it would catch that next group of people that for whatever reason, they prefer to use a computer to provide the survey.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk to, let's say COVID's everybody gets vaccinated. COVID is in the past. You're building a new team now, and so you're going to really go from a COVID response team to more special projects, right?
Yep.
And what's your team look like right now? Where are you, besides Insum, where are you getting your teammates?
Oh, we don't have that many from Insum. We got some great recruiters at Oracle who, go out and they comb LinkedIn, whatever else. I think LinkedIn is kind of their primary source these days for pretty much anything recruiting. But we're hiring a ton of people. The number of Apex people I was told to hire we're still not there yet. I think at one point I had 37 people reporting directly to me because we just grew the team so fast that, I wasn't doing like the traditional, like, okay, let's have a one-on-one. Tell me how you feel today. I'm like, nope, go do stuff. We'll work this through later, but you're now on this project and you're on this project and you're on this project. So the team now is smaller. I think we're 8 people right now, but we're just getting started too. And we'll bring more on board as needed. But yeah, there's a huge need still, right? Yeah. Not just on the COVID side, but, again, I can't get into all the specifics, but if you're interested, there's definitely opportunity.
Yeah. Everybody that I know, including yourself, but all the other consultancies, we're all hiring. We're trying to get as many people as we can, on board. So yeah, it's across the entire space. As far as you go, are you more a manager today, or you mentioned and you mentioned the coding, but was that you find yourself doing more managing and less coding, or do you still actually sit down and code?
Yeah, I do some. Built a data model last night, so I guess that's coding. I don't know.
Sure,
kind of coding. It's not a PowerPoint. I did a lot initially, right? Like being thrown into CoVPN, that was just go right. Apex PL SQL. DCH was definitely Apex database stuff, working with the Java team to get the web services integrated. This new team, I'll do some. I don't think I'll ever not code, but it's not a full-time job. A lot of what I'm going to be doing for the foreseeable future with this role is, more presentations, more interacting with the different GBUs and the different managers over there, helping do prototypes. So that'll probably be the extent of, is probably what I should be doing is, hey, here's a quick 1-day demo. Do you like it? Great. I've got better people that I can have come in and actually flesh out the solution. I've got a PowerPoint deck to change for the next one, right? So it's a little bit of both. There's days I wish it was more coding. Then there's days that I'm kind of, glad it's not 100% coding, right?
Yeah. How hard was it? How hard was it to go back to Oracle? And what I mean is, like, you had to. I mean, you left a great job and a great company, but there had to be this calling whenever they said, "Hey, Scott, would you come on and save the world?" I mean, that.
When Doug started texting me, like, keep your eyes open, there's going to be a big Oracle announcement soon. Like, what is it? Can't tell you. Like, you're killing me, dude. So, I saw what they were doing and talked to Doug and he was one of the original people on the team formed in March. And, you're right. It was kind of like, man, I'm on the outside. I want to help. I want to do something. And, it took a while to kind of get the offer created, which is funny now because I can go create an offer like right now in 2 minutes and be done with it. But it just, to get the ball rolling, it had to go through the approvals. And, once that happened, I still don't feel like I work at Oracle. I'll be honest. It's just maybe because everybody's home, maybe because I've never been to the office as an Oracle employee. I've been in the office many times as a Viscosity employee, but never as an Oracle employee. I don't even have a badge because nothing's open right now. So it is a little surreal. I do remember like the first Zoom call I was on with someone from the healthcare team introducing me to the Apex team. And I was like, yeah, you can stop. I know literally everybody on the call except you. Oh, everybody. I'm like, yeah, this is like my old team. So it's been surreal, right? It's just totally different. I don't know, maybe it hasn't sunk in. Maybe I haven't had time to sit down and kind of absorb it all.
Are you in Texas for good now? You think this is you putting down roots?
How about that?
All right. There's my answer right there. No, I was thrilled. I was thrilled to hear that you were relocating. It's quite a culture shock, but you know what? You landed in a great place, though. I mean, that Central Texas is. People here, even in Texas, that's where we vacation. So, I mean, it's a great place to call home.
It's beautiful here. I mean, the scenery and. People say Texas is flat. Well, not all of it. This is the part that's not. The San Antonio, Austin corridor is just gorgeous. But two questions for you. Number one, can Texans ever get away from their pickup trucks for like 5 minutes? We just went down to Port A this past week. Drive your truck right up to the ocean. I'm like, no. Why would you?
We got to carry stuff around, man. You can't do that in a Prius.
But you could, actually put a bag over your shoulder and walk to the beach, right? Like, I have never seen more truck pull up to the beach, like literally 10 feet away from the water, and then, pull the whole barbecue out of the back, put up a tent.
Yeah, maybe these people have never heard of high tide because the water does ebb and flow. You know what people do is they'll put the rod holders on the back of their truck, and so they'll back right up to the water. And they don't even
dodge the fishing rods everywhere you go. It's fine. But the truck thing, wow. We don't. Texas is not built for cold weather. I got 3 used palm trees. If you want to buy them, let me know and come pick them up.
Yeah. Now to be honest, that what we experienced back on February 15th or whatever it was. I mean, that was extreme. I mean, that was extreme. That was not something that we're equipped to do. Even my buddies up in Montreal, they were talking about, when you're getting down into single digits, that's cold no matter where you're at. And you guys got it worse than we did in Houston, for sure. And we're fixing to have to bring up and have our big reveal for the Two Truths and a Lie. Before we do, man, I'm feeling really nervous about the Syracuse Houston game coming up in the tournament.
I'm not nervous at all.
Yeah, well, I think you're confident, and I'm nervous. Is I think what it is. Also, your Nationals, man, undressed the Astros last night.
Yeah, it's still. No, I'm not sure how they're going to do this year. I know the Orange. It's always good to see a team that doesn't know the zone, right? Because I guarantee you right now, Houston's practicing like, oh, let's run zone. Let's, figure out how to penetrate. Let's figure out how to make these shots. Like it doesn't matter. Like when you get on the court and just see how we run it, it always befuddles teams that aren't familiar with it. Now the challenge is, and the way you beat it is can you adjust, right? So if you can adjust over 40 minutes, there's a chance you can prevail, but it's a long, grueling 40 minutes.
I don't have a whole lot of confidence. Scott, I really do appreciate you taking time out of your incredibly busy day to join us. Mark, if you'll throw up our, there we go. Scott, could you go down the list here and discuss which of these are true and which is the blatant lie?
Sure. Well, the one in the middle, number 2, is definitely true. I did join Oracle right out of college and actually did e-business suite sales consulting for 6 or 7 years and then rolled over to the HTMLdb product management position. So that's true. As part of those initial 7 years, we would use something called Tadpoles, which were basically laptops that run Solaris, if you can remember back that far. We would put these laptops in a big old hardened case, and we'd slap a couple hard drives in the case. They were massive for 500 megs or something, and throw them on a plane and hope that, baggage handler gods wouldn't destroy them. And we'd set up our demo environment, right? There was no cloud back then. It was all done completely remote, on site. So yeah, we built stuff on Tadpoles. They were god awful machines. They're so slow. It was kind of cool to have a Unix laptop, but it was only cool until you had to do anything with it, and it just struggled.
Yeah. We're probably, you're probably a few years younger than I am, but whenever I was in college, we were still punching cards. And
I missed that part by a couple of years.
Yeah, but it shows you how fast we've come. Because when I was in school, that's when really PCs really hit the scene. And so you're talking about within one lifetime, within one career. Look at the advancements that have been made. And I can't imagine. A lot of talk is around the Spanish flu and all that. The last global pandemic that of this magnitude, and we were so ill-equipped by comparison. Look what you guys did, and look how, had you not, provided the tools for us to attack this thing, we'd be in a world of hurt right now. Not that we're not, but we're so much better off through the efforts of you and your team, Scott. We've
got a lot of work to do still, I think, without getting on a soapbox, but it's not over yet. We are. I think Dr. Fauci said it this morning. We're not turning the corner. We're at the corner, right? We're going to decide which way to go over the next few months. And yeah, being a part of it, and every person that gets vaccinated is making us as a society better. And not everybody will, and not everybody can. And there's some legit reasons why people won't. So those that can should, right? I saw a really interesting article on where was it? I forget. It was on the internet. Let's just say it was on the internet, but it was a reputable news magazine. It talked about the efficacy of Moderna versus J&J. And people are like, oh, I don't want J&J. It's only 75% effective. You've got to look at the Moderna trials, which were done in CoVPN, were done when COVID was this big, right? So it was 95% because the number of people who also had it was fewer.
That's true.
So the risk was smaller. The J&J trial was done much later, over the summertime when we were in the crazy spike. So you're exposed to so many more people, and every exposure is a chance to pick up the virus. It's just a numbers game, right? If 1 out of 100 people has a virus and you're exposed to those 100 people, it's a 1 out of 100 chance. But if 20 out of 100 the chance goes up. So don't think for a second it doesn't work as well. It does, right? So, what they're saying is like, take the shot you can get, right? And I'll give this advice to Houston: take a shot if you can have a shot. Otherwise, that zone's going to smother you. But if it's J&J or if it's Moderna or Pfizer, right, just get it. If you're able to get it, get it.
Yeah, I thought I was going to get Moderna because of the 4-week distance of 4 weeks before you come out and get your second shot. But the lady said, no, you're getting Pfizer, but they wanted to move it to 4 weeks instead of 3 just to have more of the availability of the doses for other people. Yeah. They want to get as many people to get their first shot as possible.
Yeah, they did kind of shuffle that a little bit, but I think they're doing okay. I mean, because production, obviously it takes time to make all this stuff, but once they get it, they can crank it out pretty quickly. So yeah, back to dinner with Larry. Obviously, haven't yet had dinner with Larry.
You invited him to your house. I mean, sometimes you have to extend, Scott.
This is Oracle Corporate now, right? Austin, Texas is the new headquarters for Oracle. So I came this close to staying at his house. True story. We were going out working on a project for the new internet computer. If you could think back to like 2002, 2001. It was Java 1 that week in San Francisco, and they couldn't find us a hotel. So one of the options, because we were working directly with Larry at the time, was, well, he has another house we might be able to let you guys use.
Oh, man.
So it didn't work out. They ended up putting us in a bed and breakfast all the way up Half Moon Bay. And it was the most bizarre place I think I've ever stayed.
Wow.
As like a 24-year-old single guy, being in a bed and breakfast was not where I envisioned spending any of my time. But hey, we found a place. It wasn't Larry's house, unfortunately.
Well, thanks for participating with the Two Truths and a Lie. We always have a lot of fun with it, and it lets people know a little bit more about you. Scott, we're indebted as a community. We're indebted to you, what you've done with Apex, what you've done with the Apex community, and here of late, what you're doing to really combat this COVID situation. So thank you so very, very much. Would you come back and join us again sometime?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, we can get into all kinds of different stuff and maybe talk about, where the new team is headed and, more. Trust me, there's a lot of Apex stuff going on. And I think a lot of what we're doing is going to make Apex better for the community. And that's at the back of my mind. Like every time I talk to Mike Hitchwell, I'm like, hey, we need this. It'll help us solve this, but man, will the community also benefit from it. So you'll see some stuff coming in the next few months, give or take.
Well, we're looking forward to it.
But I gotta say one thing before we disconnect here. The thing that I think I'll never forget with this whole process was how freaking hard the federal government employees work.
That's a good point.
It is like I've never seen before. And I know they get such a bad rap, but these people would be on calls with us from 7 to 11, 7 days a week. And later, like I regularly get texts from CDC people at 11 o'clock at night. Hey, can you Zoom? I'm like, yeah, of course I can Zoom. It's only 11, right? Like, I mean, and they're still at it, right? So just the amount of dedication that I've seen across NIAID, NIH, CDC, all three of the agencies we worked with, unbelievable, right? These people are the backbone. These are the ones that are going to be there before this, or were there before this. They're there through it, and they're going to be there once it's all done. They deserve a lot of the credit too. Like we help them, but without them, none of this happens.
Yeah, that's a great point, and thank you for giving them that shout out, because administrations will come and go, and these are the people that are there, and you hear about lifers and how they're just punching in and punching out, but that is not the case.
Yeah, it was not political. Like no one cared, right? Literally no one cared. Yeah, we had some laughs, but at the end of the day, it's like we had a mission. I mean, it was literally like nothing else. We missed by one date. We're on the Today Show and we're on CNN, right? Like we had to get this done. And without their help and without their guidance, without all their contributions, we just couldn't meet that deadline. And we did it. And some advice: never go live with 3 major systems within 48 hours. That's just not fun for anybody. We did it and we got through it, but that was a long 2-3 days of just
Noted.
Yeah.
Well,
space out 1 a week
again. Thanks so much, and we will definitely stay in touch, and we'll be watching and see what kind of enhancements are coming down the pike. Mark, if you could cue the music, we'll get people back to work and out of here. Scott, thanks again. Hope you appreciated and enjoyed your time here on the Inside. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care, buddy. Wear your masks.
You've been listening to the Insum Insider.